Well, I would say I told you so, but yeah, I told you so. Remember the whole female Adeptus Custodes thing? Maybe you don't. To quickly refresh you, Games Workshop decided that they were going to add women to the Custodes faction within Warhammer 40k. This was dumb because there was never once a mention that there was ever a female Adeptus Custode thing to begin with. What ended up happening following this lore change, which was honestly, let's be real, just done to appease ESG nonsense like it usually is that it made a lot of fans really mad. People refused to buy anything Custodes related, the faction fell out of love with a lot of people, and generally speaking the whole female custody thing has become nothing more than a meme at this point as to how not to pander to your paying customers. Of course, you're going to have the websites and the people defending this sort of thing all of the time, saying that having women in factions is good because it adds diversity. But the thing about Warhammer is that it works because it doesn't have diversity in its factions. Instead, each faction is just what it is. The Space Marines aren't cool because they have every other faction's powers or whatever in their overall faction themselves. They're cool because they're Space Marines. Anyways, the female Adeptus Custodes were being pushed by Games Workshop, despite the whole fan backlash, because they figured, well, they're gonna buy anything we make anyways, right? And we need that ESG money, so we're gonna make the personal guard of the Emperor have women in it now, even though it makes literally no sense. So, these Adeptus Custodes box sets with their female variants, they were all ready to go, they got made, they were in the box and sealed, all ready to hit that eager modern audience fan base that Games Workshop wants to cater to, and well, as SpikyBits.com reported recently as seen here, Games Workshop leaves retailers on the hook for Custodes boxes. Uh-oh, what do you mean on the hook? What happened now? Well, it turns out all those female Adeptus Custodes boxes full of those miniatures ready to be painted and shipped out, they never left the warehouse. In fact, according to SpikyBits.com, these Custodes battle group orders have effectively been cancelled by Games Workshop right before they were meant to ship the products to local hobby shops across the world. So any pre-order that was taken for these Custodes has not been served yet, leaving these stores who ordered them with angry customers and tons of refunds. So, what happened? As Spiky Bits says here, according to multiple stores, Games Workshop confirmed allocation numbers for the new Adeptus Custodes Battle Group release, then turned around and shorted stores anyway. That's left independent retailers canceling customer orders, issuing refunds, eating processing fees, and trying to salvage goodwill after what should have been a routine pre-order weekend. So, essentially what happened here is very simple, alright? Games Workshop, they spent all of this money making these female Adeptus Custodes sets, believing that their Warhammer fans would eat up anything that they would push in front of them. What happened instead was they basically outright canceled the entire release of these sets and chalked it up to it all being a logistical error, which isn't that convenient to say. It also doesn't make sense either though. Like, how is it a logistical error when you spend all this money pushing these products? Like, you made them even, and then claiming that actually women always protected the God Emperor of mankind. Really, all coincidentally at the same time when ESG money was flooding every facet of entertainment around 2020 and beyond when you did this too. And now suddenly time comes to show the goods and they just don't exist somehow. Yeah, I'm calling BS on that one for sure. You see, the more logical answer here is very simple. Games Workshop found out in real time about the actual demand for the female Adeptus Custodes. And the demand was basically, I mean, come on, zero pretty much. Otherwise, none of this would have gone down the way that it did now, wouldn't it? So the processing system should be pretty normal, as Spiky Bits shows here. Company shows cool new thing, people get excited for it, cool new thing goes up for pre-order, people put money down, stores orders based on the pre-order, the thing gets shipped, and everybody is happy. Pretty normal stuff as we're all aware. But not this time. Nope, not this time. Oh, it's so delicious, guys.
Finger licking good special.
To see this sort of thing happen time and time again, no matter what it is, it always makes me laugh. Yet again, like always, the modern audience did not show up to buy the thing that the companies are pushing on top of them. It's extra sad here though, because Games Workshop Workshop really burned goodwill for no reason, just to appease the people who aren't fans anyways. It kind of reminds me of that one game, 1348X Votto. Remember the Lesbian Night game, which came out this year? It had something like 200,000 wish lists, and people online were liking the developer's post by the tens of thousands when they were pushing back against what they would call the Chud audience. Yeah, that's right, take that, I guess. Well, in reality, when X Votto finally came out, barely anybody showed up day one or even the first full weekend to play the game. And if you go look up X Votto on Steam charts right now, its highest peak, as you can see here, was 427. And currently, it has only 17 people playing it, and that's it. And by the way, I am writing this video on a Saturday morning, okay? So people are off work. Surely, they should be playing it, but where are they? This is what I keep saying. You can't be pandering to the modern audience when it comes to anything these days. We shouldn't do it at all, really. Because these sorts of people, they never show up in any meaningful numbers to ever support you. The vast majority of people who liked the Lesbian Night game's tweets either watched the game like being played by someone else online on like YouTube, or they were never going to pick up the game in the first place. Because what do you mean that 200,000 wish lists resulted in 400 people only picking up the game? Yet what happened with the Lesbian Night game is very much similar to the whole female Adeptus Custodes situation that we find ourselves in now, which is that nobody actually cares about these things. They really don't. Any sort of whataboutism when it comes to stuff like the Female Custodes or anything else is just that. It's cope. It's the same problem every single time. These companies are making things meant for like phantoms, because where are these people? They don't exist. Otherwise, why would Games Workshop go out of their way to suddenly cancel all of these pre-orders right before they're supposed to come out? That doesn't make any sense for that to happen when it's your big push for this brand new era of product apparently, only to suddenly back away and leave all of these hobby shops just hanging with dead silence. So one of these hobby shops that got absolutely cooked by Games Workshop with their whole backing down when it came to female custody pre-orders is a hobby shop named Warpfire Minis. Here's what Warpfire had to say to their customers via their Facebook page when Games Workshop delivered the bad news about no female Adeptus Custodes, as it reads here. We got a phone call today from Games Workshop that they had a logistical error, and instead of receiving all of the Custodes battle group boxes that we ordered and received confirmation numbers for, we're instead going to receive a grand total of 0 Custodes battle group boxes. All of the other items for the weekend are shipping like normal. They had no real explanation of why, said it's affecting hundreds of other stores, and that there's no way to get any more of these boxes. They're working on the error on their end and say it won't happen again. I fought them on it, escalated it to the higher ups, and at the end of the day, we're just getting screwed. Isn't that interesting? The one part of the ordering schedule that has the female Custodes just magically doesn't work and can't be shipped, but everyone else and everything else they ordered is suddenly just totally fine. Come on, guys. We know what's happening here. They can say it's a logistical error, but the fact that they, as in Games Workshop, never confirmed to Warpfire that they would ever get the boxes at all, like, that is very telling. It would be one thing to say, sorry, it was a mistake, they are coming, but like Warpfire said there's 0 confirmation that they're ever coming at all, like as if they never existed even. That is very weird, but as you can see, the reason why this sort of thing is bad, I mean, it's really easy. It doesn't only annoy people when they go to pre-order something and can't get it, but these sorts of things also erode the trust on a local level too. So Warpfire had to issue this at the bottom of their own post, which reads as you can see here. But what can we do in a bad situation? I'm going to go through this weekend and process full refunds for everyone who ordered a box of the female Custodes, he means. And in addition, I'm going to add $55.25 store credit, the price of other Custodes boxes, to your account that you can use towards anything on our site to try and make it right. This isn't the normal from Games Workshop. It shouldn't happen again. And just know I'm equally as bummed and very sorry that this happened. You see what I mean? This is the owner panicking and getting absolutely cooked for something they never even did wrong themselves either. Now, they have to give everybody who pre-ordered a female Custodes box set extra money credit because of Games Workshop's own screw-up. These stupid lore changes are now taking money out of hobby shops' owners' pockets as well. It's so dumb. Then you had Rock Bottom Games and Hobbies, that's another shop that also confirmed, as you can see here, that they too would not be receiving giving a single box of the Female Custodes either. And they even added their own order details for the shop for full transparency reasons. And look at that, dude. You can see it. 30 boxes ordered, none of them will be shipped, and no back orders shipped either. There has been so little demand for this modern audience disaster of a release that Games Workshop is quietly scaling back the entire release and just hoping that nobody would notice. But we did. We did notice. We noticed a lot, actually. It's scummy, though, that they cooked these shops the way that they did, though. Games Workshop, if you ask me, they should be the ones issuing at least gift cards of some kind to these affected customers, right? Not these shops. It's not their fault. It's not their fault that like the whole main company tried to push modern slop on you, right? So to have them pay now out of pocket is just extra scummy. What's also very interesting is that this is not some small 1 or 2 stores affected kind of deal because nobody's getting these boxes at all. And what's also weird is apparently the way that these pre-orders are even done in Games Workshop is that they gauge interest based on these surveys that they send out to these hobby shops. So then these shops then tell Games Workshop which items, have the most demand, and then based on the information that they're given, Games Workshop will then scale their production to then meet the needs of whichever item is most wanted, right? That makes sense. That's obvious. And that was also done for this box set too. As seen here, this is the Female Adeptus Custodes box set retailing at $255 per box set. That's a lot of money for something nobody wants, which means that Games Workshop wasted a ton of money making these things for now nobody to get them. But what makes it even weirder is that the same box set is still available, but only directly from Games Workshop's own website. Although, as of now, I have no idea if anybody has actually been able to get their hands on this box set or not as this video being made. I'm just being transparent. But that being said, it's still a perplexing situation either way because they screwed over hundreds of stores. And the only reason Games Workshop didn't honor these pre-orders is probably because demand, wasn't high enough to warrant it. Which does seem bizarre because you would think, if we can at least make some money on the orders that are available, that would be a good idea, right? But maybe they don't even want these figures out in the wild if it's so low. Because then it's really official. And then for those people to then use and see it out in the open, I think generally speaking, they cooked themselves and everybody else too. All because some feminist at the company thought the legacy factions needed more women in it, even though nobody asked for this, as Adam Jensen would say. Then Marshall Beaumont, that's a Warhammer VTuber, also caught wind of this, and I think they summed up what happened pretty efficiently where they said this via Twitter. So let's wrap up the failure of the new Custodes release. Custodes trailer for 10th edition nearly 2 years ago had 4,600 likes versus 17,000 dislikes. Custodes trailer for Horus Heresy 3rd edition 2 months ago had 2,700 likes versus 14,000 dislikes. As of this posting, 10 days after the Custodes Battle Box went on sale, it has not sold out on the Games Workshop website in the US and several other markets. Independent hobby shops report Games Workshop shorting their production of boxes, resulting in hundreds of stores not getting any copies. All evidence points to this being a massive apocalyptic flop of a release. For the US market to not be sold out 10 days later is especially damning. So yeah, this has been a disastrous release by all measures, but again, this is what the modern audience slop is all about. Because what do you mean that you took a faction that are created through a unique genetic process that is tied to the literal god emperor of mankind himself, where every single codex book and novel confirms that this faction was always male in the past, and then you decided in your infinite wisdom, we're gonna make them women now. Great idea. Warhammer is not the place to run your stupid social experiments, by the way. It's probably one of the most loyal and far-reaching fan bases in media today. It's not really a hobby that is meant for women per se. Sure, women can play it and all that, nothing wrong with it, but the point of Warhammer is that it caters specifically to the male demographic, and there's nothing wrong with that, by the way, either. I mean, for God's sakes, humanity in this universe are like brutal defenders of Earth who slaughter aliens with chainsaw swords, for God's sakes. It's a world where technology is treated like a religion, and it's dystopian by design. You have an entire realm in that universe basically called the Warp that is just full of chaos demons that just want to destroy you all the time, mentally and then some. This all screams male-dominated power fantasy to me, so trying to shift this over to having female custodes is going to do exactly what you think it's going to do. You're just going to split the community in half over something stupid like this that never should have existed. And for what though? Money? Like, where's the money? You canceled everything because not enough people showed up anyways. It's the lesbian night game all over again, but even worse. Like, this whole change just feels like typical corporate nonsense to me. Why change the lore that has been cemented in truth for decades? Like, Warhammer has always been unapologetically grim dark for a reason. Like, the setting is not meant to be comfortable in the first place. It's a universe that's defined by fanaticism and endless war. And more importantly, and like this is key, Warhammer is not, I repeat, not meant to reflect modern social ideals whatsoever either. It's supposed to be a nightmare version of humanity's future, which is exactly why so many fans feel uneasy as they're watching parts of the franchise's identity slowly getting reshaped, not because they hate new ideas, but because the reason behind these changes are just, they're stupid. Like I said, modern social ideals don't make sense in Warhammer. It's not some universe that has like influencers showing you a product or something like that, right? Like, why would 2026 modern California ideals be represented in a universe that, like its name suggests, I don't know, exists in the 40,000 millennium of mankind, for crying out loud? Like, doesn't that insinuate that the stupid feminism rot that we see today is gonna be removed from Warhammer's timeline by at least, 38,000 years of human progress? By that point, humans will have obviously learned how to achieve space travel. Things like microaggressions don't exactly matter because there's like Xenos trying to eat everybody. And when there's literal demons again crawling out of other dimensions looking to turn your skull into soup pretty much, like, that's what this is all about, right? It's all about influence in the end, isn't it? It's all about seeing these massive companies increasingly adopting ESG frameworks and internal diversity mandates, which always just ruin and screw up everything they touch anyways. These policies that just push studios and companies, to just retrofit their existing franchises. It's all done to just satisfy corporate slop optics at best, and whether you may think any one of these decisions made in this era are good or bad, the truth is that they have absolutely reshaped how creative decisions get made in the modern era of entertainment, and that is the point. The fear among many, not really just in Warhammer, but like all entertainment, it's the same thing, that instead of the franchise, the hobby, the lore, and such evolving, organically, everything is just being warped, pun intended, to just kind of check boxes instead. Now, to be fair, okay, Games Workshop wouldn't word it that way. They would instead just frame the inclusion of female Adeptus Custodes to be nothing more than a simple expansion of their universe, but the timing here, that is what raises eyebrows. Because over the past decade alone, Warhammer has exploded in popularity. Space Marine 2 sold millions of copies for a reason. Probably made a bunch of people to Warhammer fans too, let's be honest. And like the whole tabletop thing has grown too. And unfortunately, whenever a legacy IP does well, that's when the corporate vultures start circling the IP, looking to feast, like the freaks that they are. I hate it so much, dude. And now that you got the Henry Cavill-led Universe Shell thing at Amazon, for example, and more happening, what then happens next is that the once niche grimdark universe is now being positioned like it's going to be the next global entertainment icon of the world. And when something like that happens, corporate pressure tends to follow too. I personally believe if Warhammer never blew up the way that it did, the Female Custodes would never exist. It was only ever a design decision made because some executive thought, well, if more people get into this, we need to get the women in it too. Which is why this leads to the concerns of many hobbyists, as you're seeing, because when you attract mainstream attention, you also attract the corporate management structures as well, like always, right? The brand consultants show up, the risk management teams, and the people who only care about that one word, optics. That's all they care about. And words like, we need accessibility and diversity, like, oh, spare me, dude. The point, right, is to ensure in these people's eyes that these products appeal to the widest possible audience. But all it ends up doing really is making friction with the legacy fan base that's been there since day one. And what a lot of morons in suits don't understand is that people don't fall in love and connect to any which franchise or IP if you're just constantly sanitizing it and then making it into a safe space with no sharp edges. No, you see, the reason why people fall in love with an IP or world is because it has a distinct identity. It has its own tone and its philosophy that differs from everything else, hence why it's its own IP. When it's something truly unique, right, that's when it actually resonates. That's what Warhammer is. It's like Dark Souls. It's the same way. Like, nobody plays a Souls-like because they're gonna want like cute Hello Kitty fun time adventures. No, people are going to play a Souls-like because it's brutal and it's dark and it's suffocating them with its atmosphere. That's what you want. That's why you're there for it. It's like saying like, oh, I want a horror movie not to be scary. Why are you watching a horror movie then? Go watch like something else instead. You know what I mean? Makes no sense. And this is why when I see what they've tried doing with Female Custodes only to have it backfire the way that it always does, it just shows me that these companies are forgetting what made them who they are in the first place. Warhammer 40k thrives because it refuses to soften those edges. The Imperium is not meant to be heroic. The galaxy it exists within is not a hopeful one. The Emperor's entire Imperium is not meant to be some aspirational thing that we want to achieve. It's all meant to be terrifying, a cautionary tale, like a nightmare version of like where our society can go when it's being besieged by interdimensional demons and war, because that's the only thing that defines them in that era. If you try to take Warhammer and put a chick in it and make it lame or modern audience it, you end up with something that just drifts away from what made it unique. Eventually, it just becomes something for nobody, and then when that happens, well then what was the point? You really think pandering to the wine moms or the activist Twitter users going to result in the sales and not the people, mostly male, let's be real, who have actually kept you afloat for decades instead? Are we being serious here? Like, the real debate here is trust in the end. Do fans trust that Games Workshop is actually making these lore decisions like Female Custodes because it will benefit or make the lore better in the future? Or is it more likely that something like this only exists because of corporate pressures to slowly reshape it into something that it was never meant to be? Looking at you, what happened to Star Wars and Star Trek and Doctor Who and Spartacus and Marvel and DC and games like 1348X Vado, the Lesbian Knight game too. All these changes that they do to these things are never meant for the better. They're always made by people who have no idea about anything. These companies don't have belief systems or mantras, even though they try to say that they do. They don't. Their code ethics, like, it changes like a fart in the wind, and you're stupid to believe otherwise. So this whole tension and nonsense is not unique to Warhammer. I know that. This failure is not a one and done thing either. This is what happens when franchises expand and then the corporate expectations rise with it. And then you, both as a fan or maybe somebody who works in these franchises that is hopefully watching this too, you got to ensure that at the very top of your list that matters is that the integrity, soul, and identity of the thing that you love is kept the way that it is. Otherwise, you're going to end up with endless gray slop that is no different than any other franchise ruined for the modern audience too. That's why Warhammer has existed for like, what, 4 decades now and counting? Something like that? I'm probably off, but it's been around a long time. But anyways, like, Warhammer survives because it has a clear identity where its universe is not trying to be everything for everybody. And right now, with the Female Custode nonsense and seeing how poorly it's gone over in real time, you then have to wonder if this is the wake-up call for Games Workshop to stop this nonsense now before it somehow gets even worse. Because this needs to stop before it can get worse, right? But then what's next? The Emperor of Mankind is going to be reincarnated like one day into a non-binary black woman with a septum piercing? You know what? Do it, Games Workshop. I dare you. I dare you to do that and then see what the community thinks about it. You know what will happen, but do it anyways. Why not? I mean, you thought the Female Adeptus Custodes thing was going to work too, right? Oh, what's that? You canceled it all and then you screwed over hundreds of hobby shops? Wow. It's almost as if, like I always say, stop catering to the modern audience and start catering to the people who have supported you for years before you have no more audience to begin with. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you'd like to. Hopefully this video makes it around enough so that people's brains can have the stupid shade from their heads, and I'll see you in the next one.